Snow White's smile suddenly became extremely sweet. She took out a bag and ribbon from the counter and was about to take the apple from my hand. I directly tossed the apple to David, curled my lips at him, and said with a smile, "Excessive packaging is not environmentally friendly and is extremely detrimental to the green ecological development of Fairy Tale Town. Let's not wrap our apples." The starlight in Snow White's eyes instantly became gloomy and poisonous. She asked sharply, "Are you sure you don't want the packaging? It contains my blessings, which will make the apple even more delicious." "It's not necessary," I replied without any hesitation, and turned to leave the apple store. Snow White's malicious gaze followed my back, but she didn't chase after me. By the time we reached the entrance of the shopping center, David and I didn't stop for a moment and stepped right out. In the blink of an eye, we were back in the club's main hall. The electronics screen showed that we were the first team to escape this round of the game. David turned to ask me, "How did you know that the poison wasn't on the apple, but on the ribbon?" Because if the probability was just about choosing an apple, our chances of escaping would be too high. In the games of Ice and Snow Paradise, although the elimination rate is 50%, for each player, escaping from the Ice Queen is almost a matter of life and death. If I had been a little later then, even by 0.01 seconds, the snowman's tragedy would have fallen squarely on me. Compared to that, in the second round of the game, one apple was poisonous and the other was not. Choosing 1 out of 2, a 50% escape rate, was too high. So I was wondering if there would be any other traps in this game. When I saw the red ribbon on the product packaging, I remembered that in the original text of Snow White's story, she was not only poisoned by a poisoned apple, but also by a poisoned hairband. The 17 dwarfs took off the poisoned hairband, and Snow White came back to life. Those ribbons looked exactly like hairbands. If we assume that the poisonous one was the packaging ribbon, then everything makes sense. No matter how you choose the apple, it's safe. But the players didn't know that, so after racking their brains and making a distressingly difficult choice, they wouldn't care about Snow White's ribbon packaging. This is a trap that has a way out, but it almost constitutes a fatal situation by grasping the player's mind. Also, because the difficulty was too high, as a restriction, Snow White wouldn't have the attacking power of the Ice Queen. After listening to me, David took a long breath and said, "Choosing you as my teammate is the second wisest choice I've made in my life." I looked at him puzzled. "What do you mean by the second?" David showed a sincere smile for the first time. "The wisest choice is my fiancé." He pulled out a photo from his pocket and proudly showed it to me. In the photo, David was wearing beach shorts, grinning happily. His right arm was around a girl in a white long dress. Behind them were countless coconut trees, forming a verdant scenery. I glanced at the photo lightly. "Do you know that in movies and TV shows, showing family photos is a standard flag action?" The light in David's eyes dimmed. He gave a bitter smile. "In the second round of the game, only our team is likely to survive. At most, not more than 2 teams. The third round of the game should break the small team combination and turn into 1v1. By then, you and I will become opponents. Alice, you are very smart and strong. I will try my best to defeat you, but I know your chances of survival are much greater than mine. If I can't leave here alive, I hope you can go see my fiancée for me and let her let go. I don't want her to be trapped in pain. This is my only wish." I nodded and said, "Don't worry, I won't show mercy to you. After I get out, I will go see your fiancé." Such a big tone. The third round of the game hasn't started yet, and you think you can win. A sharp and harsh male voice sounded behind me. I turned to look. A man and a woman appeared at the door of the club, obviously just successfully cleared the second round of the game. This man is called Eric. He claims to be a rich second generation, whose daily life is all about eating, drinking, and having fun. It's surprising that such a person also has a brain to escape from the dwarf's mission and Snow White's apple-blinding method. Standing next to him is a girl named Jen Man. She looks extremely ordinary. So ordinary that her features hardly leave any impression on my mind. I only remember that she once joked about herself as an 18th line suspense writer who flopped. Jen glanced at Eric and said to me, "This guy is always fighting over family property with his 6 illegitimate children at home. His brain has long been messed up. Don't mind him. At this moment, the puppet suddenly appeared. Its eyes rolled around us 4 people and said, "How come there are only 4 tourists left? It seems that the others really like Snow White's shopping center and can't bear to leave. Anyway, let's continue to the next stop of our journey. You will see the most perfect and stunning building in the entire tour of Fairy Tale Town. You absolutely can't miss it." Third stage, game introduction. The Ocean Opera House is the oldest building in Fairy Tale Town. The Mermaid Princess, as the best singer in Fairy Tale Town, performs wonderful shows here every day. But yesterday, she was deceived by the evil witch and lost her voice completely. If our tourist friends want to hear the Mermaid Princess sing again, please find her voice back. In return, she will give a wonderful performance. Game rules. The Mermaid Princess's voice has been hidden by the evil witch in the attic of the Ocean Opera House, which is also the witch's hiding place. Players need to find the voice and return it to the Mermaid Princess. Please note, due to the witch's schedule, she cannot appear today. Her role is temporarily replaced by the Black and White Witch, Cruella. 2. Cruella has no interest in the Mermaid Princess's voice. Her favorite is clothes made of human skin. 3. In order to dress up for Cinderella's ball, Cruella needs to make a new skirt, a new cloak, and a new hat. She needs a total of 3 pieces of human skin. As long as she collects 3 pieces of human skin, she will leave the opera house. 4. The Mermaid Princess's loss of voice has caused strong dissatisfaction among the townspeople. Many thugs took this opportunity to cause chaos and destroy the opera house. Therefore, the director of the opera house urgently hired a group of one-legged cavalry to maintain order in the opera house. Whoever is attacked by the weapons in the hands of the tin soldiers will die immediately. 5. Giving the voice back to the Mermaid Princess will cause a time reversal in the opera house. The Mermaid Princess will return to the day before her voice was taken away by the witch. 6. This game is a single-player system. There is no time limit for clearing the stage, and violence between players is not prohibited. Good luck to all players. Standing in the grand and spacious opera house, I carefully recall the rules broadcasted by the puppet just now. The rules require 3 pieces of human skin to get Cruella to leave. Only in this way can we have the chance to sneak into the attic and get back the Mermaid Princess's voice. There are only 4 players left, which is equivalent to sacrificing 3 people and 1 person surviving. So the core of this game is the self-killing among the 4 players. Because the small standoffs were canceled, David and I were not teleported to the same place. I am now in the library of the opera house. The tables, chairs, and bookshelves are all covered with thick dust. It seems that no one has been here for a long time. On the wall at the corner, I found the structural diagram of the opera house. The library is on the far east of the first floor. Most of the space on the second and first floors is a theater. The third floor is the office of the staff. The attic where Cruella is located does not appear on this map. It seems that it needs the players to explore themselves. When I walked to the first floor hall, I immediately saw Eric. He looked at me with a vigilant face, but his feet hadn't moved for a long time. The game just started, and it's not the moment of life and death stalemate. Moreover, both of us have no weapons in our hands. It's not wise to fight barehanded. We both understand this, so we tacitly watched each other and moved our feet slowly, heading in different directions. I darted into a long corridor, with many opposing rooms on both sides. It should be the changing rooms and makeup rooms for the actors. I urgently need a weapon for self-defense, so I decisively start to search. Strangely, the room doors are not locked, which makes it convenient to search. This might be a new trap, but I can't worry that much. If I don't have a weapon, I might be the first one to die among the 4 players. When I searched to the third room, I suddenly felt a weird quietness, as if something had deliberately erased all the sounds in this room in order not to expose its whereabouts. I turned around sharply, and a white light flashed in front of my eyes. In my field of vision, a short sword was raised high above my head, and the hilt was held in a hand that had been brushed with white paint. I followed the hand and saw a face that was also painted white. The black pupils were round and staring. Underneath was a red lip drawn with a crayon. The lips bent into an extremely exaggerated arc. Together with the lackluster pupils, they formed a weird smiling face. It was a one-legged tin soldier. I reacted and dodged quickly, and the short sword was neatly stabbed into the table. I took advantage of the gap when the tin soldier was pulling out the short sword, turned back, and picked up the empty vase on the flower stand, and smashed it at the one-legged tin soldier with all my strength. The moment it was smashed, the vase exploded, and the porcelain fragments were embedded in the joints of the one-legged tin soldier, but it did not hinder his movement at all. It was ineffective. At this time, the tin soldier had pulled out the short sword and stabbed at me again with that weird smile. I picked up a piece of prop, an iron plate, as a shield. The short sword stabbed on it, and the friction sound of metal to metal entered my ears, making my scalp numb. The tin soldier was very strong, and I couldn't resist at all. My knees bent uncontrollably, and there was a very obvious bulge on the iron plate. If this continues, the short sword in the tin soldier's hand will soon pierce it. The next one to be pierced will be me. I must think of a way how to suppress the tin soldier and escape from his hand. I turned my head and looked around the room. Suddenly, a white cup on the table caught my attention. The cup was full of water, as if it had just been filled, and there was a slight heat coming out of it. But due to the mermaid prince's loss of voice, the opera house is closed today. How could anyone come to pour water? An idea suddenly came to my mind. I strenuously resisted the pressure of the tin soldier's short sword and moved my body to the table, ensuring that my hand could reach the water cup. After I quickly put down my right hand that was holding the iron plate, I reached out to the table. Without the support of one hand, I was totally no match for the cavalry. I couldn't even hold on to the iron plate. The short sword in his hand was stabbing at me at a very fast speed. The short sword was getting closer and closer to my right eyeball. In the next second, it will pierce my cornea and pierce my eye through. But before that, with a whoosh, a full cup of water was splashed on the tin soldier. His body suddenly stiffened, and layers of yellow rust quickly spread from his joints. I was right. The tin soldier was strong, quick to react, and powerful, but water was his biggest enemy. As long as he touched water, his body would rust, thereby restricting his movements. I breathed a sigh of relief, moved back, and distanced myself from the short sword that was about to pierce my eyeball. I pried it out of the hand of the tin soldier and held it in my own hand. Didn't I just get a weapon? The rust on the tin soldier's body had stopped growing and even began to gradually fade. It seemed that the water's restriction on the tin soldier was temporary. After a while, he would restore his freedom. I put the dagger behind my back, ready to leave the room, when I suddenly heard a sharp laughter from afar. I got the first piece of human skin. I can make a beautiful new skirt. It was Cruella's voice, but I don't know who died. Carefully bypassing several patrolling tin soldiers, I just reached the staircase to the third floor. I heard a pounding sound from far to near. The sound was not loud, even very light. At least it was not the footsteps of the one-legged tin soldier. I flashed into the corner next to me, ensuring that I would not be discovered. I stuck out my head and my eyes were tightly staring at the source of the sound. At the end of the corridor, a woman appeared. She was Jen. She held a ball in her hand and was juggling it, making a very slight pounding sound. I couldn't see her features clearly, but I could inexplicably feel the showy smile on her. Walking to the middle of the corridor, she suddenly stopped. Her voice was not low, full of temptation. "Alice, where are you? Don't you want to come out and see your teammate? He was thinking about you until he died, worried if you were in trouble." Only then did I see that what she was juggling in her hand was not a ball, but David's head. Jen's right hand kept playing with David's head, and the left hand was holding a dagger, starting to check each room one by one. She was getting closer and closer to me, and the crazy smile on her face was getting clearer and clearer. "Do you know, I found out when I was young that I was different from others. My appearance is too ordinary, so ordinary that no one can remember my face. It's strange, isn't it? But I feel lucky, because only in this way, after killing, can I perfectly hide and not be found by anyone. The murder cases I wrote, all readers thought they were made-up stories, but they are actually my personal experience. So, Alice, do you want to be the heroine of my new book? I will arrange a wonderful death for you. I guarantee you will like it." So annoying, I didn't have the patience to listen. As soon as I turned around, I saw Eric, who had appeared behind me unknowingly and was 2 meters away from me. His hand, holding the knife, kept trembling. I suddenly understood. "Did you join forces with Jen?" Eric swallowed hard, nervously said, "You either get killed by me or be killed by Jen. You choose one." I glanced at his hand that was shaking so much that he could hardly hold the knife and said directly, "If I get killed, you will definitely be the next to die. You are not Jen's opponent. Why not join forces with me? Kill Jen first, and then we will decide between us." Eric's face was wrinkled into a ball, almost crying out, "I dare not kill her. She is too perverted. Killing David was not enough. I couldn't stand it, but she said it was fun. She is not a human at all." The footsteps of Jen were getting closer and closer. If this stalemate continues, I will be discovered by her soon. At that time, Eric will definitely stand by her side because of fear. 1 against 2, my odds of winning are not great. It's time to make a quick decision. I took 2 steps forward and quickly told him how to deal with the tin soldiers. I asked him to trap a tin soldier in a room first, and then lure Jen over using my presence in the room as bait. As long as we can lock Jen in the room, after a while, the rust on the tin soldier will disappear. We don't need to do anything, and Jen will naturally die under the sword of the tin soldier. It's clear that Eric really doesn't want to kill anyone. After hearing my plan, he nodded like pounding garlic and said he would go do it immediately. I quietly waited in the corner for Eric to successfully trap a tin soldier and then lure Jen over, before I quietly followed them. Standing in the corridor, through the room door, I could hear the conversation in the room clearly. "Didn't you say Alice is here? Where is she?" I lied to her that I want to team up with her to kill you, and she believed it. I made an appointment with her to meet here, and she will come in a while. Jen, who writes suspense novels, didn't believe such cliché words at all. After slapping Eric, she turned around and wanted to leave the room, but it was too late. When I was eavesdropping outside the door just now, I had locked the door so that both of them would be completely trapped in the room. When the tin soldier wakes up, they will face a terrifying nightmare. Of course, if they have water at hand, they can immobilize the tin soldier for a while, but this is not a permanent solution, isn't it? The banging sound of knocking on the door and Jen's curses kept coming. I hooked the corner of my mouth and smiled. The decoration of the opera house is extremely luxurious, and every material used is top-notch, including the room door, which is extremely sturdy and cannot be broken open by human force. Although I didn't kill them myself, I can be considered as avenging David. While looking for the attic, I heard Cruella's sharp laughter from above my head again. The 2nd and 3rd pieces of human skin are also in hand. I can make a beautiful new cape and new hat. Without the obstruction of other players, Cruella had already left early. The process of finding the attic was not difficult. The mermaid princess's singing voice was a bubble, which was placed in a wooden box. I picked up the wooden box and walked into the large theater on the 1st floor. In the center of the stage, the mermaid princess was sitting on the ground, touching her throat while crying. I took out the bubble and put it in front of her. The bubble automatically floated to the air as if sensing something, circled around her twice, and eventually disappeared. The mermaid princess tried to open her mouth and was pleasantly surprised to find that her voice had returned. She quickly got up and gratefully said to me, "Thank you for helping me find my singing voice. As a reward, let me sing a song for you." The wonderful singing voice instantly filled the entire theater. I suddenly felt relaxed all over. The life and death experiences and exhaustion along the way since I entered the fairy tale town seemed to be thoroughly cleansed by the mermaid prince's singing voice. After the song, she lightly raised her hand, and a huge bubble rose on the stage. The scene of the club hall gradually emerged in the bubble. The mermaid princess kindly took my hand and said, "Congratulations on successfully clearing the level. Return to the hall of the club, and you can return to the real world." She led me to the front of the bubble and urged, "Go back quickly. Have a good sleep after you go back. You will get a good rest." I was already very close to the bubble, and I could step into it with just one more step. The mermaid princess standing next to me showed an encouraging smile, expecting me to step in. I took a deep breath, raised my leg, and took a step back. The mermaid princess looked surprised. "What's wrong? Don't you want to go back?" I tilted my head and asked her, "Why are you announcing the end of the game? It should be the doll's job. Why hasn't he appeared yet, but you told me the game is over?" The smile on the mermaid princess's face suddenly froze. I looked into her eyes and suddenly laughed. "You remind me of someone. 2 months ago, I was pulled into an escape game called Rose Villa. There, I met a very strange player. She had a cute face and was very kind to me. Both her smile and voice were sweet. But while she was caring about me verbally, she was doing everything that would put me in a deadly situation. In the end, she died in my hands. But in the real world, I couldn't find any news related to her death. It's as if this person didn't exist at all. Just now, I suddenly thought, if she's not an ordinary player, who could she be? By the way, that player's name is Mary. Do you know her?" As my voice fell, the face of the mermaid princess turned completely pale. Her features began to change, gradually becoming the same as Mary's. But halfway through the transformation, her eyes suddenly widened, revealing indescribable horror. A short sword was firmly inserted into her heart. I held the hilt of the sword, pushed the blade a little further in. My voice was cold, without any emotions mixed in. "From the beginning, I found one of the game rules strange. That rule said that if I return the singing voice to you, you will go back to the day before the witch tricked you and cut your throat, which is equivalent to resetting the time. I have always been confused about the use of this rule because it seems to be more of a background introduction for you than guiding the player's actions. But just now I figured it out. It does have the function of guiding the players. The ultimate goal of this game is to let you regain your singing voice and never lose it again. But if it's time to rewind, when tomorrow comes, you will still be tricked and throat cut by the witch. The only way for you not to lose your singing voice forever is to kill you. Only by killing you can your cycle end, and this game can truly be cleared in the real sense." The face of the mermaid princess, or Mary, became extremely ferocious. She glared at me resentfully, as if she wanted to say something, but the severe pain from her chest made it impossible for her to speak. The tin soldier's weapon can kill anyone. This applies to players and also to NPCs. She was undoubtedly going to die. The next second, her body exploded with a bang, turning into countless fragments and dispersing in the air. I was then greeted with the long-lost announcement. "Congratulations to player Alice." I impatiently interrupted the doll. "Come out. I have something to ask you." The announcement stopped abruptly, and the face of the doll appeared in midair. His crimson eyes stared at me. "Ask, player Alice, what do you need?" I coldly looked at him. "When will your game get more interesting?" The doll grinned. "Are you already bored? Don't worry, you are a very strong, very excellent player. I will prepare more exciting and fun games for you. Of course, I will also give you plenty of rest time. I won't make your body feel uncomfortable." I kept flipping the short sword in my hand and gently placed it on my neck. "What if I choose not to play? If I die, you won't be able to pull me into the game anymore." The doll suddenly burst into laughter. After laughing enough, he brought his big round head close to my face, staring at me and said, "Do you think you can die? You've tried so many times since you were a child. Which time did you succeed?" My heart suddenly stirred up a storm. "It's you." The doll didn't respond to my words anymore. He completely disappeared in front of me, leaving only the eerie electronic sound floating in the air. "Since you actively asked about the next game, then I'll send you the invitation in advance. Prepare well, my sweetheart. Don't let me down." Suddenly, there was an extra card in my hand. The familiar texture, the familiar handwriting. It read, "Player Alice, you are cordially invited to participate in the Bizarre Museum Escape game 2 months later. Note, this invitation is a mandatory invitation system. Unless the invitee dies accidentally, it cannot be refused. Of course, you won't have such an accident." The end.